Hello and welcome. Today we have several interesting stories, including one about original posters entitled Ex-Wife Who Is Demanding He Not Only Contributes for Their Kids' School but Take Up the Responsibility of Caring for the Kids She's Had with Her New Husband. Sit back, relax and enjoy. Am I the idiot for spending my children's inheritance, leaving almost nothing to them and my grandchildren? Hello, good afternoon. What you are about to read is a recent cause of emotional distress for me, regret, and I'm doing this post with the help of my colleague and his son, whom insist I'm doing the right thing. I'm 63 years old. I took advantage of better times, financially speaking, and managed to get enough money to save, have a good retirement, and leave a good inheritance for my children. However, their actions in recent years has broken my heart. My oldest daughter is a lawyer, married to an attorney. I have another son who is also a lawyer, a third who became an engineer, and the youngest, who is a salesman. I have been a smoker for many years, and the predictable outcome has finally caught me, so I may not have many years left. After knowing this, my children began stabbing each other's backs, trying to get their inheritance earlier. Initially were frequent verbal discussions, that escalated to legal battles. The boiling point came when my daughter forged her brother's signature to take their part of the inheritance while I was being treated at the hospital. Now, none of the siblings can see each other in the eye, and only talk through lawyers. Saddened by this situation, decided to spend the money, thinking that if all of it is gone, they would have no more reasons to fight. I donated to charities, bought my wife beauty items, went on vacations with her paying for the better-looking hotel rooms. No planes because of COVID travel restrictions. Gave my grandkids expensive gifts, bought my dearest friends and colleagues better equipments to improve their work. We bought a huge TV, prepaid for my funeral, tasted some fine whiskey, among other things. Right now, about 65 to 70% of my saving are now gone. I plan to keep enough for the time I have left, and leave my wife a good cash amount. However, my children are noticing that I'm spending a lot, and started to ask questions. My daughter figured out what happened on her own. I had no rebuttals, since I'm guilty of all the accusations she made, but then she mentioned that her children will suffer because of my selfish acts. Not only that, but I am cursing all of her grandchildren by doing this. That made me think that my grandchildren shouldn't be punished for their parents' sins, and maybe I was too self-absorbed to realize it sooner. That's my dilemma now. The top replies. Not the idiot. Hard not the idiot. What did she accuse you of? Spending your money? That you earned? On a life you wanted. Inheritance is what you get when someone dies. It's not yours. You're not entitled to it. You don't get to dictate what happens until you actually inherit it. You can, until the day you die, change up who gets what. You got one kid who's not being a dick? Leave it to them. Or leave it to your grandkids in a trust their folks can't touch. You can roll it up and smoke it. It's yours. You've done nothing wrong. Hell, just leave it all to your wife. That's how it should go anyway, and I'm sorry you're at this point, man. The big C sucks, assuming that what you meant. Second reply. Not the idiot. Dear original poster, you're not spending your children's inheritance, you're spending your own money. Children have no right to their parents' hard-earned cash.
Even more so when they become as entitled as your kids.
Your children have already shown themselves to be devious, forging signatures, so you need to structure your estate in such a way that your wife is protected against bullying by the kids. I would go so far as to add details of their shenanigans in your will, so that there's no doubt why you have disinherited them. Enjoy the time you have left, and this might include going no contact with your children. The third reply. Okay, but I do suspect original poster is seriously underestimating the potential costs of his wife's elder care. That shit can be years or decades of mind-boggling expenses, especially if she has to hire someone to do the administrative piece of it because her kids are too backbiting and spiteful. Original poster. I'm sure your wife appreciates that you're making her final years with you pleasurable.
But assuming she isn't facing the same relatively quick decline from physically self-sufficient to dead that you presumably are, you owe her some degree of pragmatism, too.
The second story. Am I the idiot for refusing to pay child support to my ex-wife for our children so she and her husband can save for their other kid? My ex-wife and I are the parents of a daughter who is 17 and a son who is 15. We share custody of our kids 50/50 and we have been divorced for 13 years now. Neither of us pays child support because we have equal time with the kids and we split the costs of everything: school, medical, dental, extracurriculars. I opened up bank accounts for my kids when each was born and I have saved from the get-go. But around 8 or so years ago I came into some money because I was injured at work and I put that money into their accounts. As well as this, a relative died 4 years ago and I was left a sum of money that also went into the accounts for my children. The money I have now saved for them will help them tremendously in their futures, whether they go to college or not. My ex-wife remarried several years ago. Her stepdaughter is 16. She's got a nephew of her husband's they are raising who is 14 and she has a 7 and 5-year-old with her husband. Ex-wife wanted to talk to me about college for our kids and she told me that she and her husband had told all their kids that community college would be the most affordable option for them and that they would get as much help as possible, but a more expensive school would be tough on them. I told her that our kids would have that option if they wanted it because I have saved a more than healthy amount for them. She asked me why I never told her sooner and I told her because I was taking care of our children and it wasn't something she needed to know. A few days after this talk she called me and alongside her husband said that they would like me to pay child support for our kids, so that they can save more money for their other children's futures. I told her I was not going to pay her child support just so she could support the other children in her home. Her husband told me I could always offer to split the money between all of the children. I told him I was not paying for his kids to go to college. I told them I only had a responsibility to my children. I told them if they wanted to save more money, I would happily take the kids more if they, my kids, want to spend more time at home with me. Ex-wife called me cruel and said keeping 50-50 and paying money so our kids' siblings can go to college should be a no-brainer for me. I told her the day I have an obligation to help her support her entire household is a day in another universe where we never broke up. But we did and she has to accept she is equally responsible for our kids as me. They both told me I was an ass and even though I feel like I'm crazy for asking, I must ask, am I the idiot? The top replies. Not the idiot. Also, I'd be extra careful with the college funds. Your kids could be bullied into sharing with their step/half siblings in the future. Original poster. You need to keep control of the money. Pay the college bills, tuition, room, etc. Director Ectley for the first year or so. If he passes all the money to his kids they may be pressured to give some to the other kids. Second reply. Not the idiot, they are trying to sucker you into paying for their kids. Don't budge. Paying child support for their kids is easier for them than for you and you can afford to send their kids to college. We take no responsibility for any of their abilities. The claims they make here are absolutely amazing. Third reply. Are the funds in your kid's name? If so, change it ASAP because first they tried to sucker you into paying up. Next targets are your kids, they will try to convince them to share with their step-siblings. Change it ASAP, they'll try to guilt-trip them. It's really unfortunate that your child's siblings don't have the same opportunities as them, but it's not your fault or your responsibility to take care of them. The third story.
Am I the idiot for refusing to invite my step-niece to my daughter's Christmas party? For the last 2 years, my daughter Mia, 10, has had a Christmas party with her friends on the same night I hold an adult Christmas party.
This year Mia's party will be a pamper day, followed by a themed dinner party, and a movie night sleepover. A couple of weeks ago Mia asked me if she had to invite her step-cousin, Georgia, 11. For context, Mia and Georgia have known each other since they were 3/4. When they were young they would play together but when they got older, not so much. I will say Georgia wanted to play with Mia more than the other way round, as Mia grew out of active games quite young. They still sometimes hang out at family gatherings but there have been a couple of instances where Georgia has had to be told to leave Mia alone because she won't accept that Mia doesn't want to play. Based on this I said Mia doesn't have to invite Georgia to the party. Georgia was invited the past 2 years because my brother and son-in-law were coming to the adult party. But that she wasn't allowed to mention the party in front of Georgia because we didn't want her to feel bad. When I sent out invites for my party, Son-in-law called confirming whether there would be a kids party like last year. I said it was never a kids party, it was Mia's party, and yes, she would be having some friends over. Son-in-law didn't get the hint and asked what time she should bring Georgia, so I told her that we allowed Mia to choose who to invite and she'd only chosen her friends from school. Son-in-law got mad and asked how I could let Mia's cousin exclude her like this, but I said the girls aren't close, and I have no right to dictate who Mia chooses to invite to her own party. I also said that since Georgia would never know about the party, I'm obviously not intentionally hurting anyone. A few days later, son-in-law called and said Georgia now knew about the party, so I had to invite her. I said no, I didn't, and the only person who could have told her was son-in-law or my brother, so I was not going to fall for their poorly contrived way to force an invite. Son-in-law got mad again and said she can't believe that I'm teaching my daughter to be a bully just like me, and that she and my brother wouldn't come to my party and might not come to family Christmas because they don't want Georgia to be around people who exclude her. I thought she was bluffing and would get over it, but my mom has said that my brother told her he's still trying to persuade son-in-law to come to Christmas because she's still upset that I wasn't making Georgia feel like part of the family. To me, this has nothing to do with whether Georgia is family. She's not Mia's friend and Mia didn't want her there. End of story.
My mom said maybe I should just relent, because Georgia will probably have a terrible time and leave early anyway, and then son-in-law won't hold it against us.
But I don't want to ruin Mia's day to pacify son-in-law. Am I the idiot?
Not the idiot.
I am so confused by these comments calling you the idiot original poster. I applaud you for listening and standing up for your daughter's wishes. Why should she have to invite someone she barely knows and gets along with?
To make Georgia and son-in-law happy.
Hell no. You have every right to not allow someone to a party. It just seems like Mia and Georgia are very different young girls who don't really match together, with Mia growing out of things quicker than Georgia and Georgia being told to leave Mia alone. No wonder Mia doesn't want her there. Again, you are not the idiot original poster. It just seems like Mia and Georgia are very different young girls who don't really match together, with Mia growing out of things quicker than Georgia and Georgia being told to leave Mia alone. No wonder Mia doesn't want her there. Again, you are not the idiot original poster. The second reply. I don't understand why son-in-law is trying to force her daughter into a situation where she is going to feel uncomfortable or get her feelings hurt.
Not saying Mia is or would bully Georgia, but a bunch of girls that are all friends and one girl that doesn't only know anyone besides Mia and just doesn't click with the rest is bound to feel left out.
Son-in-law is projecting her own feelings onto her child instead of trying to protect her, and I am very sorry for Georgia because of it, but that is not Op's fault or responsibility. Not the idiot. Third reply. You are the idiot not because you aren't forcing your daughter to invite someone she doesn't want to her party, but because you knew you weren't going to extend an invite to their child but invited her parents to a party at the same location at the same time. There was no way this wasn't going to happen the way it did. The only way you could have possibly avoided this was to not invite the entire family, but to think you could invite the adults and not the kid to a yearly event and not cause issues is insane. If your daughter was having a standalone party any other time, there's no issues here at all, but the fact that it's a dual party means it's one of those occasions where you tell your daughter yes, you have to invite her because she's going to come over with her parents anyway and it's polite. Edit. I see a lot of people saying I shouldn't have had the parties on the same day because Georgia would know she wasn't invited to the other party. But my party is adult only. Georgia would not have been there to know about Mia's party.
It's an adult-only cocktail party. No kids will be there.
The fourth story. Am I the idiot for telling my husband's daughter to stop calling me mom? I, 42F, met my husband, 44 meters, 6 years ago and we have been married for 2 years. He has a daughter, 7F, from a previous marriage that didn't end well after his ex cheated on him. His daughter rarely ever sees her mom as she constantly travels the world.
I feel awful that his daughter hasn't had a good mother figure in her life, so I have been trying my best to take her out to do girly things and bond with her, sign her mother isn't around to do so.
She always would call me by my first name, but for the first time when we were sitting at the table for dinner she called me mom and it just didn't feel right, it made me feel uncomfortable. I told her that, I'm sorry but I'm not your mother, you can't call me that sweetie, and she was shocked and started to tear up a bit. My husband and I were arguing all night telling me that what I did was awful. He told me that she feels comfortable and close enough to me to call me mom and I should feel special for her calling me mom. He doesn't want to see how I feel from my side. Her mother is still very much alive and I don't want to disrespect her by taking her title as mom. It all feels very awkward as I'm used to her calling me by my name. Life was moving so smoothly until she had to call me mom. So am I the idiot for not wanting to be called mom? The top replies. You are the idiot for crushing a little girl in a vulnerable moment. She probably had to work up the courage to go through with it, fearing your rejection. And you made her worst fears come true. Second reply. I agree but we'll go with gentle you are the idiot because I do think original poster thought the title mom should be reserved for biomom. But that being said, if she just feels weird mainly because her stepdaughter is calling her mom rather than her name, and this isn't something she has a strong objection about, I do think she should be okay with being called mom. Third reply. That's actually downplaying it. Yay, they have been married 2 years and all, but do you honestly think she who has been in this girl's life for 6 years didn't do any parenting for the first 4 and then magically when the girl was 5 they were all like, now you are officially the stepmom so you can parent her. These kind of relationships grow over time. No way in hell even a 5-year-old would be fine with someone having zero authority over them for 4+ years and then being told, so from today on now is the day this person is a parent to you and you have to listen to her. I would bet both my kidneys that if the dad had pulled that stunt they would never have arrived at a point where the girl even wanted to call this woman mom. She has very much been the parental figure for this girl as far back as the girl can even remember. Agree on everything else, but marrying the father doesn't magically make you a parent. 99% chance she has taken on a parental role much earlier. At least as far as the 7-year-old is concerned. To the original poster, yes you are the idiot. Not because you don't feel right being called mom, but the way you handled it in the moment was terrible. You've been in this girl's life since she was 1 year old, knew her mother isn't a stable parenting figure and married her dad 4 years down the line. As an adult you should have known that the current situation was at least a very real possibility and prepared better for